Yo guys, this is Reinhardt and this is gonna be kinda long video where I'm gonna be talking about the class balance. A lot of people ask me what I think of World of Warcraft in terms of PvP, and I'm gonna be talking about the class balance. I'm gonna make a thread for Blizzard as well, and I need your help to bump it up. For my European fans, I don't have a European account in World of Warcraft, so please guys, if you actually can, post the same thread on European forums as well. And this is gonna be about the class balancing, PvP balancing in World of Warcraft in general, without actually touching on nerfing PvE, which on contrary beliefs, a lot of people think that the PvP and PvE have to be completely separate, but no, there's a lot of elements that you can actually work with and make both viable at the same time. So the very first thing I'm gonna talk about is RBGs, and the biggest thing I hate the most about RBGs is the new battleground that came up, the Temple of some shit. Basically what it does is when you hold the orbs, you do increased damage and you take increased damage. This is a mechanic that they kind of took it similar from Black Garden in Rift, but in Black Garden what they did is actually they had a debuff where you take a huge dot ticks and it actually increases the more you hold the relic. And for example, if it starts ticking with a 10k in the beginning, at the end it gets up to like 200, 300k, or literally can one-shot you, depends how much or how long you take the relic. And I think this is actually the best way to balance in that map specifically, because otherwise it benefits burst classes too much, as mages, destrolags, frost decays. So whatever the classes that have a dot mechanic, it's actually not benefiting them at all. There's just no point in bringing, like, let's say Affliction lag or perhaps maybe Unholy Decay into that battleground. Focus please. On one particular reason, because they don't do a lot of bursts, and that map is all about the burst. So I think the best challenge, the best change they could make is actually have the carrier, the flag carriers or the orb carriers actually take a dot damage as well, and maybe have a increased reduced healing stacking onto them. So don't make them take any extra damage, because then they will benefit the burst classes, and don't let them do any more damage, because it again will benefit the burst classes the most, and then they can potentially one-shot healers on the enemy team when they're holding the flags. So that's for one. For the second one is for the mines. I believe Horde is a huge advantage because they have access to lava and the middle card first over Alliance, and I think that needs to be changed. I think Horde needs to be, like, their location needs to be pushed back a little bit and have approximately the same estimated arrival time at the cards, because there's no point in like, oh fuck, we lost this map because we were Alliance, or shit, we won this map because we queued against another Alliance and we became Horde. There shouldn't be stuff like that. For the Battle of Gilneas, I believe Battle of Gilneas benefits Alliance the most because they can get to the waterworks faster. So what I think they need to do there is actually make Horde a little bit closer or push Alliance a little bit back. And by a little bit back, I'm talking about not actually a big distance, like 30-40 yards will make a huge whole difference in the world, because right now Horde has a hard time getting it, and literally my team actually kept the flag on waterworks against a 2900 RBG team just because we were Alliance and got there first. So that needs to be changed. In Eye of the Storm, it also benefits slightly a little bit more Alliance, because Alliance gets to the middle first and they can actually push off the Horde off the flag, and progressively down the road they can actually ninja cap it. So that needs to be changed too. Alliance needs to be moved a little bit back, or Horde needs their beginning spawn point needs to be moved a little bit forward. But that's about it so far for the RBGs. The overall classes looks imbalanced, and there's a few tweaks. I'm gonna be talking about the individual classes. So that's for RBGs. For arenas, I really hate to say it, but it looks like Blizzard wants to keep trying on resurrecting the dead. They're like, keep trying to resurrect the dead, like clear, pff, clear, pff. And then there's a woman next to me, it's giving a burst, and then basically what I'm trying to say here is Blizzard rather actually resurrect the dead than give a birth. In my opinion, scrap Ring of Valor. People drop down, people lag, people get HDC'd. It's such a horrible map with such a horrible mechanics, and the Blizzard already had tried to balance it out for a couple years, and they kept failing at it, but they keep trying and trying and trying, and there's no point in it trying. In my opinion, give a birth. Actually, in the new season, along with the PvE content, just give us another 2 extra arenas, something like Nagrand or a new Tolvir map that they came up with, where it's like no ZY access, decent amount of pillars. I hate Ruins of Lordaeron. That's a really crappy map that promotes a lot of tunnel visioning, so I don't want to see mechanic where there's only 1 pillar in the middle. Another thing what I actually liked about Ring of Valor though is that they have a specific things at specific times where the flame just come up and they do minor damage, but sometimes they can skew the battle. So I really would like to see some arenas where there would be some environmental mechanics, not RNG, but timed environmental mechanics where you actually can, if you have skills, can actually exploit on those. By saying exploit, I mean actually use those to your advantage. So that's for arenas. Now for the class balancing, and I'm gonna start giving it from the number 1 problem to the last one. The very and I'm gonna talk about the actual class mechanic changes at the same time without nerfing any PvE. So the very first one is the hunters. We all know their burst is too much. They nerfed their stampede, but the burst is still too much. And when they pop a Bestial Wrath, Blink Slash, or a Blink Strike, Rapid Fire, Unused Trinket, just too much burst. They can literally global somebody. Or if the hunter's trying to ninja cap, they're not ninja capping, they're just mongoloiding the shit out of the person who is actually defending the flag, because they would rather kill somebody and they can kill them faster than actually CC and try to cap. And I think this is wrong mechanic. I think when the BM hunter pops all the cooldowns, even if it's a one-on-one fight, even though he might not kill a smart person, but gonna come very very close to killing him, that the other person just simply won't be able to recover because he used all his defensive just trying to survive the BM hunter's burst. And I think burst is too much, and on contrary belief, the BM hunter's PvE damage is actually not very significant. So I think that the proposed changes should be the following. First of all, the hunter's 2 set gives you 3200 PvP power when they pop rapid fire, and that is too much. It's like roughly 13 to 14% extra PvP damage. Now, alone of it, it's okay. But if you include like Bestial Wrath, Unused Trinket, when they Blink Strike, when they pop all their offensive cooldowns, 13-14%, that 2-set bonus is actually makes a big difference. So the proposed change should be actually don't remove that 2-set bonus, because it is silly. It is benefits hunters too much. It gives them too much burst. In my opinion, actually, you know what? You know the glyph of Scattershot, the Scattershot remove dots. Actually, make that a 2-set bonus, because it's a mandatory for every single hunter to have. So why not make an actual PvP bonus? Therefore, the BM hunter's damage is gonna be toned down. Now, a lot of people complain about marksman and survival hunters, but they are actually not in a bad state. If we actually count in everything when it comes to hunter's control, hunter's damage, hunter's kite ability, and that the fact that they don't have any more dead range, where they can shoot actually somebody straight to the face, and the power shot, aim shot does actually a lot of damage for marksmanship. I think they're actually perfectly fine, and they do not need a balance because they have a lot of control to go with it at the same time. But what else I think that needs to be changed about the BM hunters is to have a stampede either take out the arena, or do not let stampede actually spearman somebody, because if they pop 5 Spiritmans, and that is literally about 240k heal instantly, plus the hot heals for roughly about 70 to 80k healing over its duration. Imagine having 70 to 80k healing multiplied by 5. It's literally a cooldown where you have Army of the Dead combined with a Lay on Hands, put them on together and let it be used in arenas. And that is a bit silly. Even though their damage is not, oh my god, the most amazing thing, but it's an instant cast, summon multiple soul pets, and it's a Lay on Hands. So I guess remove the healing component from it. BM hunters do have a really good healing via Spearman on their original pet. And also they have Exhilaration, Bond, they have a decent amount of healing, and plus the deterrences. So yeah, that's about the BM hunters. About the warriors, I looked at the MMO patch notes, and they're nerfing warriors to sustain damage, and I guess Blizzard absolutely clueless on how the warrior operates. In fact, I think that they actually need to buff their sustain damage a little bit, revert the nerfs, buff their sustain by about like 5 to 10%, but remove their ability to CD stack, meaning that they cannot pop Recklessness, Skull Banner, and Avatar all three at the same time. Either make him pop Recklessness separately from Avatar, Skull Banner, or just, I don't know, or just completely grayed out. They had the same mechanic in beginning of Kata, and people complained. They nerfed the warriors, they nerfed their ability to CD stack, and they nerfed their Colossus Smash. And I think that the warrior sustain damage should be brought up a little bit in PvP, but their CD stacking should be nerfed. Outside of that, I also want to propose one change. I think that they should actually make a second wind baseline, and I know you guys gonna be complaining about it, but hear me out. Make a second wind baseline and make it only heal 2%, and then give them a choice between the heroic strike for 10% of their HP every 30 seconds, or enrage regeneration, and add maybe another some kind of minor healing in some healing. So warrior's healing is actually not the most amazing thing, and I believe that the second wind needs to be nerfed because it is a bit too much in some circumstances, and in other circumstances it's just completely bad. For example, do you know that the warrior can actually out-heal all my Affliction Luck's dots put on him, even with a hunt up, with his second wind? So I need to actually manually challenge my Malefic Grasp onto him, but good luck doing that against a warrior. And on the other hand, do you know that my DK completely rips through all the second wind because of a couple necrotics plus a Soul Reaper? So I believe that the warrior should have some sort of an active heal ability and nerf their passive healing via second wind by roughly about 33 to 50%. I think that's the best way to actually balance their healing. Now about the Frost Mages, and by the way, those the proposed changes should not be affecting their PvE at all. Oh, by the way, and about the hunters, one last thing I forgot to say. In fact, maybe nerf their pet damage by roughly about 20%, but increase the hunters himself's damage, like increase his Cobra shot, Arcane shot, increase his damage that he does, because it's actually very small. And it's funny how a lot of people make actually jokes about Gladiator, Spirit Beast having a pet hunter, because the pet does way too much damage and the hunter does way too little damage. I've seen the videos where the hunter would take out their weapon and still global somebody, and that should not be happening. I believe that they actually buff up hunters damage, nerf their pets damage. And I know Beastmaster is all about the summoning, about the beast and stuff, but there a limit to where the pet should be doing damage. Definitely I don't think it should be soloing people, to be honest. Okay, now about the Frost Mages. And the biggest thing I have, the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life is about the Frost Mages is their mastery. It's absolutely stupid, retarded ability ever. Nowhere in the world, nobody other class have a mastery being a complete garbage in PvE, but being a completely the most amazing thing in PvP. And this is kind of silly because what their master does, it increases damage against the frozen targets. Now in PvE they do get a they do get their Fingers of Frost procs every now and then, and that is cute. But the master is actually least desired stat. It's below the hit, crit, haste. People like do some theory crafting, and maybe at the very high levels of haste, when you're gonna be global CD cap, you might wanna go with some mastery or not reforge out of mastery that much. That's how bad the master is. But for PvP, it's amazing because all the Frost Mages damage is done to frozen targets, and their burst is too much. Okay, 140k, and I've been hit by 140k in mines. No berserk, nothing. 140k frost bombs is a bit too much. 80-85k ice lances is too much, and that should be toned down because mages right now can kill anybody in a difference popping all their cooldowns, and that should not be happening in the game. So in my opinion, what they need to do with the mages is actually rework their mastery to baseline increase damage done for a Frost Mage. So instead of making it 2.5% extra damage against a frozen target, make it the opposite. Actually increases Frost Mage's damage by 1.25. There we go. They're gonna have a really good increase in PvE DPS, while their PvP damage is gonna go down a little bit at the same time, or at least their burst, which I think is actually should be done. Another thing about the Frost Mages, or mages in general, Blizzard, please try to make a valid road. I remember I was reading how the Blizzard was trying to make mages slippery, but if they cut with their pants down, they die very, very fast. It's not happening right now. We have a slippery component and we have a tanky component. Mainly because the Frost Barrier can absorb up to over a little bit, up to anywhere from 90 to 100k. I'm saying 100k because that's what's been on the PTR when I was playing Mist, and the ability wasn't nerfed at all. So 100 and so let's make an average 100k for example, right? My pet sack is a 2-minute cooldown. It heals me for roughly about 180 to 100k, while Frost Barrier is 100k every 30 seconds. It is a little bit too tanky. Either increase the cooldown of a Frost Barrier to 1 minute, or nerf it by roughly about 40 to 50% and make it undispellable. That's pretty much it. I believe that. I believe mages are a little bit too tanky. Also remove a heal from a cold snap ability, because it's a bit too much. I don't like it. Mages should not be insta healing, especially the ability that resets all their ice blocks, all their Frost Barrier, other defensive ability, plus it heals them. Like my pet is a 2-minute cooldown, 50% kill. Cold Snap is a 3-minute cooldown, 30% heal, and resents a bunch of CDs. Like, or I guess make my Empower Runic Weapon heal me for another 30 to 50%. Like, I just simply don't see how, like, what the heck are they doing there. Now that was about mages. About the fire mages, increase the cooldown of a Dragon Breath, but I'm gonna touch base with the CCs later on down this video. Okay, so now let's move to the Affliction locks, and what they did with them with the Malefic Grasp was a great idea, but the implementation was very, very goddamn poor. The thing is, locks are all the Affliction locks are asking for a good controlled single target damage. But the problem that right now they have is that Malefic Grasp is a channel cast, and the biggest problem about the Malefic Grasp is that it's in the same school that Fear and all the locks dots. So basically if they get locked out, they can become useless, and it's really hard to actually get a good channel for it to take effect in PvP, but in PvE of course it's relatively easy. So I think my suggestion is nerf the Malefic Grasp by roughly the dot actually, you know, remove the dot proccing component from it. Actually make it Malefic Grasp that when they channel, their dots tick like 20% faster. That's about it. Don't make it anymore, and then buff the locks damage themselves. My Unholy Decay dots hit harder than my Affliction lock dots. Frost Decay dots hit harder than Affliction locks dots. I don't know. My Uncle's Charlie's grandmother sneezes hit harder than Affliction lock dots. Like our dots literally hit as hard as they were in Cataclysm. And the Cataclysm dot damage was a little bit higher over the Wrath of the Lich King. So over the period of time, they did something really, really bad with Affliction locks, and I believe that they actually need to buff up their damage by nerfing Malefic Grasp and increasing our overall dot damage. Now that will also increase our off-dotting target, but that should be done because right now off-dotting for Affliction lock is also very, very poor, to be honest. Another way to do it is actually make a Malefic Grasp an actual debuff. Make a Hunt, actually have a 10-second cooldown, and make a Malefic Grasp work like a hunt, or actually roll a Malefic Grasp into the hunt itself. Okay, so that will give me only single target, and boom, there you go. But then people are gonna be asking what a Affliction locks fillers should actually be. Well, make a Drain Life. Let him cast Drain Life, let him cast Drain Soul to gain the shards back, and that's perfectly fine. But do not murder Affliction in PvP just so they could have this single target good damage in PvE. And Affliction right now are one of the most amazing specs in PvE, but their damage in PvP is actually, with the dots, is very, very low. I haven't seen a single Affliction lock for about this week doing RBG because they are just not that viable anymore. Needless to say, I did get to 2.2k as Affliction lock, but that doesn't mean that the class actually needs to be fixing. About the Rogue. Rogues don't need any more damage, okay? Whoever says they need more damage, freaking Cataclysm Mongoloids who think, yeah, we need more damage, dude. No, I think what the rogues do actually need is an increase in their overall utility. For example, make their sheath actually provide like a 50% MS for 3 seconds, something like that. Bring their utilities a little bit up, like giving them maybe 50% MS with the healing as good as it is right now. 50% MS for rogue is actually not bad, and their damage, by the way, is not that horrible. They can burst up somebody from 100% to 0 in like 5-6 seconds. A good rogue can actually do that. So they're not that bad. The only problem with the rogues though is that people always think that in order to be successful is you have to do a lot of damage. And if we're gonna give rogues damage of the cataclysm level, we're gonna have another godlike class, because they're gonna have way too much CC, they have incredible defensives, they still have incredible defensives, just a little bit less self-healing, and they're gonna do really good damage. So no, let's not do that. Let's actually buff up their utilities, like maybe give them like 10-second cooldown, 3-second MS effect. Maybe make their sprints actually break roots and give them a temporarily maybe like freedom and stuff, like increase their mobility just a little bit. I'm not 100% sure if it's still a good idea to do shadow step and prep on the same in the same talent tree anymore, because rogues do need a little bit more utility, but I think they're perfectly fine in a damage wise. So that's my thing about the rogues. Now let's talk about the off healing. I think for the Shadow Priest off healing, their off healing needs to be nerfed by roughly about 30%. And so the Red Paladins, Elite Shamans, and Bumpkins. Elite Shamans could be their off healing could be nerfed by like 20%. And same thing applies with the Pharaohs and Hasra. Everybody who have a spammable heals, their healing should be toned down by anywhere from 15 to 30% depending on the class. For the Shadow Priest, nerf their healing and nerf their shields by 25%, 30%. But in return, give them actually a little bit faster cast speed on their Vampiric Touch, because it does get interrupted quite a lot. So increase their a little bit PvP damage versatility, but nerf their off healing. I think that would be the best way to actually do it. And the same thing applies for Reds. I think Reds are actually in a good shape. They just heal way too much. And so are Enhancement Shamans, so are the Elite Shamans. There's, in general, hybrid off healing is a bit too much, and that's probably the biggest problem with the PvP power, because it stacks quite nicely with them. So that's about the hybrid healing. I do believe that most of the classes are fine. People complain about unholy decay. Oh yeah, about decays. Let's talk about decays actually. People complain about unholy decays not being able to kill shit. Well, the thing is, the crap ass unholy decay won't be able to kill shit. The good unholy decay will actually be able to get a kill very easily. For me, it's actually very easy to get a kill, to kill somebody's unholy. Love it to death right now, my spec. But what I do think that the decays are squishy against physical DPS. And I think if we look at our second tier tree, where we have a Lichborn, AMZ, and what's the shit called? It's sort of like a cheat death mechanic. I've completely forgot about it. Whatever, you know. So in the second tier we have healing, and then we're gonna have damage mitigation talent. Man, it's like on the tip of my tongue. God. Whatever. So we have like healing, damage mitigation, and it's just overall a very poorly made talent line, because how could you put a damage mitigation along with the healing? I know it's a part of survivability, but at the same time is actually like healing is not in a good spot with the freaking damage mitigation. In my opinion, what they actually should do is they actually make a Lichborn baseline, because Lichborn not only healing, but it's also CC escape, and make it baseline for all the classes, but put a Bone Shield as a talent choice there. So if we want to go against spell class, we can go with AMZ. If we go against melee class, we can go with the Bone Shield, and that will increase our survivability against the physical DPS, and we're also gonna give a versatility in that tree. Otherwise, everybody just goes with Lichborn. There's no much choice involved, and I actually really want to have a legitimate choice in that tree. Now for the Frost Decay, please buff their Blood Strike damage by a lot. Like, buff their Blood Strike by life for about, making hit for like 30, 40k, 50k, crit, 25k baseline in PV. buff their blood strike, maybe make a soul reaper that is actually affected by their mastery as well. But in return, remove permanent death runes, because this is just absolutely freaking silly what they do to Frost Decay. They literally made a class that can spam Howling Blast with one finger, Frost Strike with the other finger, and completely get away with it. There's zero skill involved in being a Frost Decay right now, and it's a shame, because I knew a lot of decays, a lot of Frost Decay actually rolled unholy because they actually want to try and win this game, because the class just doesn't take any skill. We have a 1900 arena heroes climbing up in the RBG ladder to 2700 just because they know how to Howling Blast spam, and it's very easy. It doesn't take any finesse to be a Frost Decay right now anymore. I think that they need to actually rework their rotation. They should make their rotation a bit more complicated, where it actually matters if you know how to do a proper PvP rotation, instead of just Howling Blast, Howling Blast, Howling Blast, Howling Blast, Frost Strike, Frost Strike, Frost Strike, Frost Strike, Howling Blast, Howling Blast. It's very mongoloidy, and it's stupid as hell. It should be actually stopped, in my opinion. In that case, they're gonna have 2 Frost runes, 2 Blood runes, 2 Death runes, and then they can convert their Blood runes into the Death runes via Blood Strike, and make a Blood Strike hit relatively hard. I'm not telling you can nerf their PvE, so buff up their Blood Strike, buff out, like, have them stay the same thing in PvE in terms of DPS, but instead of having a permanent Death runes, remove those and give them actual Blood Strikes. So it actually takes a good amount of skill to be a Frost Decay than actually being a just completely big mongoloid spamming one button Howling Blast. It's very sad when my Unholy Decay requires 20-25 keybinds in the PvP rotation, and my Frost Decay requires 5 or 12. Like it's not 5 or 12, 5 to 7. I want to count it, but it's gonna be way too nerdy, to be honest. In this video, it's not only about the decays. So I know a lot of complaints about Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest and Holy Priest survivability should stay the same. They did get a lot of niche stuff like Fade Out or 30-second Vanish. And in all honesty, that's how the Priest should operate. They should be a little bit more elusive and very offensive healers. I think what they need to do with the Priest, maybe make their dominant mind, is actually baseline type of situation and give them other choice in the first talent tree. So the priest healers should be keeping their effect of being that really great offensive healer. And I know they have a lot of mana issues, and this is not my job to actually say what kind of mana issues they had. I do believe that they need to increase their mana efficiency just a little bit up there. Okay, so that's it for so far what I see with the class balances. Now, for some people that are, for some class that I didn't mention before, and I didn't mention for a particular reason, because I think the other classes are more or less fine. Now, I know you guys gonna flame me about the Hasman Shamans, but when the Hasman Shaman takes 200k of my HP, my Lux HP, in about 4 to 6 seconds, I think that the Hasman Shamans actually damage-wise are pretty damn well balanced. I think most of the class are well balanced. It's just the burst outliers are BM hunters, warriors, and frost mages. And I already said how to actually balance them out. Now let's talk about the actual overall quality of life changes. And it's gonna be probably in the beginning of my thread, because I think it's actually needed to be done. The very first thing, I think that the AOE, all AOE CC duration should be nerfed by roughly about 33%. And their cooldown should be increased by about 40 to 50%. And the reason why I'm saying is because it's just the most aggravating thing when you actually trinket something only to get into the other CC. And that and there's so much AOE CC going on right now that it's absolutely miserable sometimes to even, you cannot even play your character, even though nobody on the other enemy RBG team or arena team ever targeted you even once. You can probably still sit in roughly about 25 to 30 seconds of undeniable CC in 1 minute. So I think that the whole AOE CCs needs to be toned down. The other thing I really want to see is I want to see removed any blanket abilities from the game. Gag Order, Counter Spell, Spell Lock. I absolutely don't think that they should be in the game, because the way I see it is those abilities are retard proof. People who cannot mind freeze or interrupt somebody properly, or oh my god, the healer just juked me. Like honestly, people who cannot interrupt should not be able to actually blanket CC somebody at the same time. Mage's control is way too much. They're not gonna lose that much from having removed their blanket CC. Spell lock, I'm playing a lot. Remove my spell lock blanket too. I do not want to have it in the game. It's too much. It's too good. And especially for a gag order, like 50. I just don't think it's fair for, let's say, people who actually have legitimate silence, like Shadow Priest, DK. DK Strangulate is a 2-minute cooldown. For 5 seconds, I can silence somebody for 5 seconds every 2 minutes. The warrior can do roughly about 8 pummels. For each of them are 3 seconds silence, so it's like 24 seconds, and about 4 heroic strikes, which is another 12 seconds. I can do 5 seconds silence in 2 minutes. Warrior can do 36 seconds silence in 2 minutes. I'm an anti-caster class. Yeah, wait, what? So, I believe that the blankets should be out of the game. I think the warriors should actually keep their heroic throw silence. I think it's awesome niche that they have. But the blankets, no. There is a skill in juking somebody else's interrupt. There's a lot of skills involved. And all the blankets are actually preventing that. I believe they should be taken out of the game completely. And it's either you interrupt somebody or you don't interrupt somebody. Instead of, I didn't interrupt you, but Blizzard, please save my ass so I won't be looking like a scrub anymore, and give this guy a blanket silence. What the fuck? Seriously, this is the stupidest mechanic ever. In all honesty. Now, I think that's about it to what I actually had to say about the PvP balance. If you guys like these ideas, if you agree with what I just said, please support me in my threads, guys. And as always, guys, thanks everybody for watching, and до свидания, my friends.